them from someplace where they were doing quite well. But you know what? They want to go out of their way to be politically correct. This country has to do things right. They cannot worry about political correctness anymore. They can't do it. They have to do things right. So you have some votes coming up. The Colorado decision where, as you know, although I would say almost unanimous, even radical left, crazy Democrats, you say you can't take the vote away from the people. And in this case, we're leading everywhere. We're leading with the Republicans. We're leading with Democrats. We're beating Biden by a lot. And if Biden gets in, you know, they want to substantially expand the Supreme Court, which would be a terrible thing. But you have to understand, we have to get down to business, or we're not going to have a country left. We need two things in our country, so important. We need two things. We need strong borders, and we need free, you know, they want to and fair and honest elections. The other vote they're taking is going to be on immunity for the president. Now, this isn't just me. This is all presidents. They have to be given immunity. Otherwise, they're going to be unable to act. Anything they do, if it goes wrong, even if it goes right, the opposing party, and you see that now, where you have these people, they're crazy. They're absolutely, the opposing party will indict them for anything they do. So a president has to be given immunity. And this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with every single president. As an example, when Biden gets out, I mean, has that guy got a list you could go after? But you have to give a president immunity. Otherwise, take a look at Harry Truman. He wouldn't have done, if you think Hiroshima, not exactly a nice act, but it did end the Second World War, probably. Right? Nagasaki, he wouldn't be doing that. He said, I don't want to do that because my opponents will indict me. You have to give a president full and total immunity. And, you know, I liken it to a little bit police. You have to give them back their authority and their power because our country is crime-ridden. And when you do that, you're going to have a rogue cop. You're going to have a bad apple. Somewhere along the line. Very, very few, surprisingly few, but you're going to have some. And what they're doing is they're trying to protect so much against that crime is rampant all over the place. And, you know, the police are incredible, and the firemen and everyone else, but they're incredible. These are incredible people, and they want to do their job, and they're not allowed to do it. Just like the Border Patrol wants to do their job. They're not allowed. They're under orders. You'll lose your house. You'll lose everything you have. You'll lose your family, your wife, family, husband, family. You're going to lose everything if you do it, if you act. When they see people walking out of the stores carrying televisions, don't do it, don't touch them, don't do anything. We have to go back to being a country of law and order. Have to do it. And you will have, very seldom, but you will have the rogue, we call it the rogue cop, the bad apple. And perhaps you'll have that also with president. But there's nothing you can do about that. You're going to have to give the president, you're going to have to allow a president, any president, to have immunity so that that president can act and do what he feels and what his group of advisors feel is the absolute right thing. Otherwise, you're going to have presidents that are totally impotent, and we've had enough of them already. We've had enough of them already. So having immunity is so important, and I hope the Supreme Court has the courage to do that, because otherwise you're just not going to be in a very strong position very long. It'll totally change our country, in my opinion. That's how bad it would be. Upon taking office, I will terminate every open border policy that Biden and the Biden administration put on and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. To stop the deadly drugs that are poisoning and pouring into our country, poisoning our people, I will deploy the U.S. Navy. We are going to impose, and we had this, you know, we were at a 38-year low for drugs coming in, too, not just people coming in for drugs. And now we're 9 times more. Drugs are just pouring in. We fought that hard. We spent millions of dollars on equipment that could detect. You know what the best detection, though, is? A certain type of German Shepherd. You can spend millions of dollars on drug-detecting equipment, and it's not as good as a great certain type of German Shepherd, like they're flawless. Can you imagine dogs? We all love dogs, right? It's a great thing. But the Navy's going to impose a full fentanyl blockade on the waters of our region because it comes from every different way. And I had a deal with President Xi of China, and when the election turned out the way it turned out, we got more votes than any sitting president in history, and we lost by a whisker. Bullshit, okay? Bullshit. You know, we got more votes. We got more votes, Henry, than any president in the history of our country. Any president. And bad things happen. But President Xi and I had an agreement. He was going to give the maximum penalty to anybody making fentanyl in China and sending it over here. That means the death penalty, because they have the death penalty. That's why they don't have any drug problem. In China, they have the death penalty. Singapore, other places. Where you have the death penalty, you have no drug problem. It's a very simple thing. So I don't know that our country is ready for it. But each drug dealer kills on average 500 people during his or her lifetime. And I know what it is because I have so many friends. And even if you lose somebody without that, just lose somebody. We had it this last week. I lost my mother-in-law, and she passed away, peacefully passed away. It's a very hard thing to take. But think of what happens when you lose a child or anybody to fentanyl. It's a horrible thing. And we had it just about set, and when that was going to go into existence, and then when these guys came, they didn't care about that. They didn't know about it. They didn't want to bother with it. That would have been one of the most important things we did. I'll get it done again. President Xi will do it again. I guarantee you that. The drug cartels are waging war on America, and we will destroy those cartels. We have to destroy. You know, it's war. I believe we're losing 300,000. Not, you know, they say 91,000. That's not 91,000. 300,000 people a year, I believe, are lost to drugs pouring into our country. That's worse than a war, okay? That's worse than a war. So we have a war going on. And I will use Title 42, which I had. In fact, the judge in that case was fantastic. He said they wanted to terminate it early. The judge wouldn't let him do it. He said, no, wait a minute. Do you know what's going to happen to our country if we do that? Title 42. And he said, no, but it expires. You can wait. But if you don't extend it, it would be terrible. But I'm not going to give you the right to terminate it. He was fantastic, actually. He understood. But Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families and their home countries immediately. Nikki Haley will never secure the border or stop the fentanyl that is killing thousands and thousands of New Hampshire citizens. You know, I took tours with your police force and your fire force. And a big part of what they do in New Hampshire, I don't know what it is with New Hampshire, but you probably have per capita the worst drug situation in the entire country. Why don't you try getting a new governor? That would help, okay? But you have the worst. I believe it's the worst. Per capita, I believe it's the worst, and it's not even close. But I went around with the firemen, the job they do, the policemen, the job of keeping people alive. But sometimes they'll have to do it 4 or 5 times with the same person, and oftentimes that person doesn't make it eventually. Nikki Haley opposed my border wall very strongly. She condemned my strong border policies, and they really worked. They really worked. I mean, I put in policies. I didn't want people coming in from countries that hate us, that want to blow up our shopping centers and kill our people. And so we didn't let them come in, and we had you know, I wanted to talk about it so badly during that 4-year period. 2.5, 3 years went up. I said, I want to talk, but I don't want to mention it, because if I mention it the next day, they'll have a problem and they'll say, see? But we went, now I can talk about it with great pride. We went 4 years without any terrorist problem because we kept them out. We kept them out. And remember, Iran was broke under the Trump administration. Iran was broke. I said to China, if you buy 1 barrel of oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business in the U.S., and we're going to put 100% tariff on everything you have. They said, like we said, we're not going to buy any oil. But I did that with many countries, and they were absolutely broke. If you remember back, you go back 3.5 years ago, you will see that there were reports, actually, even from the fake news, that Hamas, Hezbollah. They didn't have any money because Iran had no money to give them. They wanted to survive. And I didn't want to be bad to her. I just didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I said, you know, we're going to make a great deal. Everybody's going to be happy. You're going to be rich as hell again. Everything's going to be great. But you cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now they're 31 days away from having a nuclear weapon. These numbskulls have done nothing. It would have been such an easy deal. They wanted to make a deal. And then because of the results of the election, they said, let's wait it out. Nobody ever contacted them. They're going to have a nuclear weapon in 31 days, the likes of which the power of nuclear weaponry is not describable. Actually, it's not describable. And that's where we are right now. This country has regressed to a point that it's so embarrassing to even talk about when you look at what's happened. Just 3 years, a little more than 3 years. What's happened to our country is so sad to see. Nikki stabbed the Republican Party in the back by siding with Barack Hussein Obama against the Trump travel ban, which kept us safe. That travel ban was a gift from God. It kept us safe as a country. We didn't have the problems that other countries had. Biden and his thugs are desperate to stop us because they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones that can stop them. You know, this is the greatest movement in the history of the United States. There's never been a movement like this. Never been a movement like this. Never. In an interview yesterday, a very sad interview actually, Attorney General Merrick Garland, head of crooked Joe Biden's Department of Injustice, actually stated that he wanted to speed up the so-called election integrity witch hunt against President Trump. And I say, if he wanted to do that, why didn't they file the lawsuit 3 years earlier? Because they wanted to have it right smack in the middle of the election. You know when it comes to? They want to start the trial. And I think it's going to be delayed very substantially because of all the things you see happening, including what's happening in Georgia with the horrible case of Fani Willis. It's actually pronounced Fani. It's F-A-N-I, but you pronounce it Fani, a little French accent there. Fani. But that's a terrible thing. But so Merrick Garland, I didn't think he'd be like this because I understood, had, you know, looked at him. To me, he was a very respected judge, very respected for a long time. I never thought this would happen with him. He was liberal, but he was a respected guy, and I never thought this would happen, but he wants to speed it up. But I say they want to speed it up. They could have started it 3 years ago. 3 years ago. This would have been over 2 years. And now they want to speed it up. You know why they want to speed it up? Because I'm leading in the election. This is election interference at a level that nobody has ever seen before. It's because they know that I did nothing wrong, and they want to get going. And it's, by the way, what the hell ever happened to the Biden boxes deal? What's with Biden boxes? Where did that ever go? They kept saying Trump, they raided Mar-a-Lago. You remember they raided my home. How would you like to have your home raided? Nice home. They raided my home. Whatever happened? Remember he kept classified documents under the wheels of his Corvette. He loves that Corvette. In an open garage with no security. Whatever happened? Let's check that. Whatever happened to Biden, the Biden boxes? He had massive numbers. He was taking stuff when he was a senator, which that you're not allowed to do. I was protected by the Presidential Records Act, by the way. But whatever happened to that boxes deal with Joe Biden? And why isn't Garland going after the ones who rigged the 2020 election? Why is he always going after the ones who are complaining about the rigging? They only go after the ones complaining. Now we have to have honest elections in all these cases. Biden and Garland were weaponizing law enforcement for really high-level election interference. That's what they're doing now. He's got nothing he can run on. He always says, Donald Trump is a threat. He's a threat to democracy. That's right. That's right. MAGA. We've got to stop MAGA. What does MAGA mean, Joe? Make America great again. We got to stop Make America Great. Think of it. We've got to stop Make America Great again. But I don't do too much imitation of him because every time I do it, every single time, they have it on television. like fake NBC, fake CBS, fake ABC. Not to mention CNN, MSDNC, and Fox. But every time I do it, if I imitate him, they show me Donald Trump spoke poorly last night. He could hardly say a word. So it's very dangerous. You know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I hardly do it anymore. Maybe I'll do it for New Hampshire. I'm desperate to get you a vote. I'm desperate to get your vote. Maybe I'll do it. But I don't do it because what they do is, if I'm sarcastic or a lot of times I'll say, and President Obama is doing a lousy job, meaning that Obama's running the show. They'll say, Donald Trump doesn't know who our president is. No. Because cognitively, you know, I don't know if you saw, but a few months ago, I took a cognitive test. My doctor gave me. I said, give me a cognitive test just so we can, you know, because you know what the standards were. And I aced it. I also took one when I was in the White House. No, I'll let you know when I go bad. I really think I'll be able to tell you, because someday we go bad. But, you know, I've had, and they always say, like Haley, she talks about, yeah, we don't need 80-year-old. Well, I don't mind being 80, but I'm 77. That's a big difference. But I have one friend who became a very rich man, became a billionaire. His whole life he didn't do well. He was in a certain business, didn't do well. He turned 80. He made $1 billion between the age of 80 and 90. He made all his money from 80 to 90. They always like to mention age. It's not age. Different people, different strokes, right? But what it is think of that. He made all of his money. I know people that are 90. I know one person, 94 years old, a phenomenal. His mind is as sharp as it's ever been. I feel my mind is stronger now than it was 25 years ago. Is that possible? I really do. Now, Biden can't say that. Look, you know he can't say that. You know he can't say that. You know there's something going on. But when I imitated, so a few weeks ago, I imitated, because as you know, he can never find the stairs. You know how many stairs? 1, 2. We have 2 on the side. 3, 4, and there's one back here, and then there's an emergency. So you get like 6 or 7. This is not a big platform. So I imitated it, and everybody had a great time. You know the way he finishes the speech? The speeches usually last about 2 minutes, yeah? That's right. Thank you. 2 or 3 minutes. They're not long. This is not Winston Churchill. He used to speak for never have so few done so much for so many. You know what that was about? The Spitfire. He was a slightly good speaker. But this isn't Winston Churchill. But they last very, very short periods of time because the energy runs low. You know, it's got something going on there. The key with him is to get him going for a long period of time. Let's see how it looks. But when he leaves, do you ever notice he always points? He goes, thank you. He always goes, like the Heisman Trophy. And then, but he leaves, and so they had a wall. We'll pretend that's a wall back there, but they had a wall. I don't think there's a stair in the back, so he would find that area instead of. But you know what? So there's a wall, and I imitated him going to the wall, and everybody cracked up. We were all having a good time, and the fake news said Donald Trump was embarrassed tonight. He couldn't find his way off the stage. Can you believe? No.
Legend has it that a woman called
dishonest people. You know the thing where we talked about a dictator. Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. So Sean Hannity, who's a fantastic guy, by the way. Sean Hannity, I did a town hall with him 2 weeks ago, and he said, "All right, let's put this to rest." He thought he was doing me a favor, and I wanted to be cute. I always got to be cute. He said, "You don't want to be a dictator or anything, do you?" I said, "Sean, I only want to be a dictator for one day. And I'm going to be a dictator, Sean, for one day. And I'm going to close up the border, and I'm going to drill, baby, drill, and after that, I'm not going to become a dictator." Right? So here's what the fake news does. It's so horrible. So I said, I want to be a dictator for one day, and then if you go on just like 10 seconds, it says the 2 things, right? We're going to have a great border. We're going to drill, baby, drill, those 2 things. We're going to have energy. We're going to make so much money. We're not going to have to worry about your Social Security. So I said those two things. I said, I'm going to be a dictator, and they cut it. So all over television said, Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. Listen to it. I'm going to be a dictator, cut. Now that's really... And it said, for one day, and I did also finish and said, and then after that, I'm not going to be a dictator ever again. So we were having fun, and they've got me saying I want to be a dictator. These are sick people, I'm telling you. We have to straighten out our free press. But Joe Biden is a threat to democracy for a number of reasons. Take a look at what he's doing with weaponization. What he's doing with the weaponization that we just discussed is terrible. But he's a threat for another reason, very big. He's grossly incompetent. That's the biggest threat that we have to democracy. We're going to end up in World War III with this guy running things. And you know, it's interesting. Until I got indicted, I never talked this way about him. You probably know. Until I got, who is this, Isaiah friend? You can get him out of here. Get out of here.
While they get rid of this guy, Joe Biden is incompetent, but so are the people that are running his operation behind the scenes. It's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden isn't doing anything. Joe Biden is being run by a group of people behind the scenes. You can see, once again, it's a bunch of maniacs. And this is only going to get worse as time goes on. That you're going to have these types of people, violent from the left, that are going to be trying to interrupt and burn things down. Just crazy people from the left. You're going to see more and more
now
of this.
We know
this is what I'm going to talk about
politics is getting serious. So now we know we're getting serious. Now, he's just a disturbed person. Remember that used to happen all the time? People used to call for it. Where is that? We want it back. But no, probably we're really now into political season, and that is happening. It's happening.
It's going to happen more and more.
And the people in this room know what, and he probably knows too. And a lot of those guys, by the way, are paid by Soros and these people.
Exactly,
you know that.
right. That's exactly
They're
right.
troublemakers. A lot of those people are paid. They go outside. In fact, they're MAGA people, but they can't help it. They say, look, he gave me. I said, do what you're doing. This is only happening, all of this, because all of the weaponization, because we're leading so much in the polls, especially if you look, we're leading her by a lot. Ron is probably finished. He's probably finished, sad. May he rest in peace. In the new Redfield
desperation
poll,
is out of control.
Just came out a little while ago. It's Trump 72%, Haley 9%, and DeSanctimonious 9%. But that's why you have to get out and vote, though. We have to keep those margins. In Nevada, we're going to be there next week. You know what we're going to get in Nevada? 100% of the vote. 100. You know why? They looked at the polls and they decided we're not going to play there. So next week is Nevada, a great state, and DeSanctimonious just announced he's pulling out of Nevada. In South Carolina, you just saw all of the leaders, just about everybody. We have almost everybody. Respected pollster, very respected guy. Tony Fabrizio, have you ever heard of him? He's Italian by persuasion, I think. But you know, he's a great pollster. John McLaughlin, great pollster. We have some great pollsters. Tony Fabrizio has it here. 64, think of it. Trump at 64%, Haley at 25%, Ron DeSantis. What the hell happened to him? 8%. We're leading in New Hampshire, but take nothing for granted because polls only matter if you get out and vote. You have to get out and vote. The polls can be so destructive. You know, I used to get polls like in Wisconsin. They said Trump is down 19 points. Washington Post, ABC, Washington Post, ABC Fake News, Washington Post. And they used to go, and they had me down, actually 18 points. Trump is down 8. I said, it can't be. Wisconsin's a great state. I just gave a speech. We had 38,000 people. There's no way I'm down 18 points. And our polls said we were doing well there. I ended up winning that state. And I went to John McLaughlin, the great pollster. I said, how can they say I'm down 18 and I end up winning in the election, winning it? I said, why don't they say 5 or 4 or 3? He said, because at 3 or 4 or 5, you go out and the people say, I'm going to go and vote. At 19 or 18 or 17, they say, darling, let's stay home. And who can blame them? They don't want to go out and vote. But when you're down like anything below 5, and he taught me this, I didn't realize it, so they'd rather ruin their reputation. They'd be down 18 points, something like that. So they'd rather ruin their reputation for the next cycle than say he's down 2% or he's up 1% or whatever it is. I ended up winning. But I said to him, what does that mean? He said, you would have won by much more, because many people, when they saw 18%, they stayed home. The pollsters are just as dishonest as these people back here, which is saying a lot. We're also dominating crooked Joe Biden in the general election. We're up 8 points over Biden in the new Rasmussen poll that just came out, while Nikki Haley is getting clobbered in that poll. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election of 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. Because, I mean, it's so true. It's so true. These people, what they do, it's really backfired on them, I guess. Because I'm being indicted for you, and never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom, because I will never let them take away your freedom. I will never let that happen. They want to silence me, because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in the way. I am in the way. I always will be. We're delighted to be joined tonight by Hillsborough County Attorney John Coughlin, Belknap County Sheriff Bill Wright, RNC National Committeeman Bill O'Brien, Congressman, he's a very low-key individual, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Hello, Congressman. Where's Matt Gaetz? Hello, Matt. I didn't know you were going to be here, Matt. Wow. Hi, Matt. And a man who is the greatest mayor in the history of New York City, and with great courage, Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy Giuliani, one of the greatest human beings to ever live.
He's a popular guy. I'll tell you, he's the
Damn
greatest
right he
mayor.
Single-handedly got rid of the mafia in New York.
From the very first day that we take back the White House from crooked Joe Biden and his band of radical left lunatics, I believe we are going to have 4 of the greatest years in the history of our country. We had the greatest economy in history. Think of all the things we did. Rebuilt the military, biggest tax cuts ever, biggest regulation cuts ever. The next Trump economic boom will begin on November 5th, 2024. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to bring America together through unprecedented success. You know, when we were just prior to COVID coming in, and we did a great job, we got credit for economy, we got credit for military, we got credit for foreign policy, never got the credit that we deserve. We had this horrible scourge coming into our country, all over the world, people dying all over the world. We never got the credit. We did a great job with the ventilators and all of the things we did, but we never got it, and it's just incredible. But 4 incredible years under my leadership, we built the single greatest economy, think of it, in the history of the world. Our country has never been so successful, especially in that period, that long period of time before the China virus came to our shores, with record low unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, veterans, young people, old people, people with diplomas, people without diplomas, people that went to MIT, like my uncle, who was there for 40 years as a professor, the longest serving professor. Rudy, did you know that? My uncle was at MIT, Dr. John Trump, for 40 years. He's the longest serving professor in the history of him. He had 3 degrees. 1 wasn't good enough for him, but he was great. He was great. My father's brother. Think of it, we had gas prices at $1.87 a gallon, and there was no inflation. We had no inflation. Energy caused inflation.
That, by the way, is a really important comment. I'm going to mute this for a second. The fact that Donald Trump's uncle had 3 degrees, MIT, shows how brilliant the family is. But yet, everybody wants to, from the mainstream media, wants to say how dumb he is. He's one of the most intelligent human beings there is. And on top of that, not only educated, but wise. So the background of his family just goes to show you how smart he is in reality. And this is when universities actually were teaching you something, which they don't do now.
You have any lobstermen and fishermen here? Lobstermen and fishermen, yeah, that's interesting. And I will fight for the fishermen like never before with 4 more years as President of the United States. You know, they want to put fees on the fishermen. Every day they want $700. I don't know anything about the industry other than I protect the industry. But $700 is a lot of money for a fisherman to go out fishing. What happens if you don't catch any fish? That happens. As soon as I get back in the White House, I will quickly end Joe Biden's inflation catastrophe. We will terminate the Green New scam, and we will drill, baby, drill. We will drill, baby, drill. Right? We'll quickly cut New Hampshire energy prices in half. You have the highest energy prices in the entire world. Think of it. I just got finished saying you have the worst drug problem in the whole country per capita, by far. But you also have the highest energy. Those are 2 bad statistics. Those are 2 bad statistics, Sununu. Those are 2 very bad, and it shouldn't be that way. You have the highest energy prices in the entire country by a lot. I will cut them in half within my first year in office because we have plenty of energy. It's right there. On day 1, I will end crooked Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate.
Nobody is buying electric vehicles.
This week, 17 retired military officials stated that Biden's electric vehicle lunacy is a threat to national security. And by the way, they don't work well in cold weather. And they don't go far. That's true. They don't go far. But it's certainly not great for your climb, they call it climate. While Biden is pushing the largest tax hike in American history, I will make the Trump tax cuts, the biggest tax cuts ever, bigger than Reagan. I will make them permanent. We're going to make them permanent. You know, they expire in a year. They expire in a year. We have to make them permanent. The Democrats will fight. If they're not made permanent, it's a tremendous tax increase, and we're not going to let that happen. And I will once again cut a record number of job-killing regulations. You know, some people, I went to some of my friends or people, in some cases they're not my friends, they're my enemies. I hate them. But they're big business. I said, what was more important for you, the tax cuts or the regulation cuts? Every single one of them said the regulation cuts. Can you believe it? I was surprised, actually. But we cut regulations at levels that nobody's ever seen. We cut more regulations than any president in history before, by far. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, we win all together. We're going to win. We will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled before I take office. President-elect, I'll get it settled. I know Putin. Get along with him. I know Zelensky. Get along with him. We're going to settle it. That's a tremendous problem that would have never, think of it, the sad, would have never happened. You know, it's one thing you settle. You can never make a settlement like you could. If we could have done settlement, we didn't even have to do, Putin would have never done it. We didn't even have to do a settlement, but we could have made a settlement. All those cities would be thriving now, the beautiful golden domes that are ripped down, 1,000-year-old buildings that are ripped down. You can never replace it. All those lives that are lost. The lives that are lost are so much greater than what you're being told. The lives are, it's just tremendous. I'll get it solved. I'll get it solved before I even get into office. We will restore peace through strength, and they understand that. There's a great man, a great leader in Europe, Viktor Orban. He's the prime minister of Hungary. He's a very great leader, very strong man. Some people don't like him because he's too strong. It's nice to have a strong man running your country, but he He was being interviewed a month ago. It was an incredible statement. In fact, I should use it in an ad, but we don't take ads. So far, we haven't needed them because we're doing well. But we should use it. But Viktor Orban, one of the most respected, one of the toughest leaders, one of the most respected, they said, what's going on? The whole world is burning. He said, what's going on is Trump is no longer in office. When he was in office, China was afraid of him. He used the word afraid. I'd rather say respect. But he said China was afraid of him. Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Russian pipeline. Remember? That was the biggest thing they ever did. I ended it. It was dead. And then Biden came along, and the first week he approved it, going all over Europe. But he said when Trump was president, they said, what would you do? He said, I would do whatever is possible to get Trump elected president again, and everything will stop. So I was very honored by it. Right?
Up north, yes, there has been a lot of stories of these electric vehicles because of the cold weather. I guess is now caused by climate change. That's why we have such cold weather, killing all of these electric vehicles. It is a scam. The electric vehicle, that whole thing is a scam. People are not buying electric vehicles. They are dying because of the cold weather. They're trash. They're garbage.
Beautiful. They're so beautiful. I don't know if their husbands are exactly thrilled by this.
By the way, look at the attractiveness of the people that are Trump supporters compared to,
of course, we have front row Joes.
Psychotic maniacs on the left.
Thank you very much. So honored. So honored. Are your marriages still good? Probably better, right? That's great. Thank you very much. That really is an honor. 117. I'm the only candidate who can make this promise to you, and I will make it, and I will keep it. I will prevent World War III. We've never been so close. You just have to check out your news. And we will build an Iron Dome over our country, a state-of-the-art missile defense shield made in the USA. We do it for other countries, and we don't do it for ourselves. We do it for other countries, all made in the USA. I will also defend our great veterans. Al is...
And also, up north, when Trudeau is angry at you, like during the trucker protests, he can then just go ahead and shut down your cars whenever he wants to. So that's another good reason to have an electric car.
Well, we're going to do it, Al. He said, well, the veterans say I was the greatest president for veterans, you know. We had a tremendous problem where the veterans weren't being taken care of, and I gave them immediate service. If they weren't able to see a doctor, you know, a lot of them couldn't see. They would be waiting, what, for 2-3 months even to just get an appointment. Anybody that couldn't get to see, and I got this approved by Congress, anybody couldn't see a doctor, you go immediately out. We have a whole group of doctors surrounding all of the hospitals. We have deals negotiated with them. You get taken care of by those doctors. It worked out so incredibly well, so unbelievably well. We also had something, you know, we have a lot of sadists that used to work, horrible people, thieves, sadists who used to work. We couldn't get them out because of civil service laws. I got it done, passed in Congress, not easy. They've been trying to get it done for 58 years. And the other with the veterans, they were trying to get that for 52 years. I got them both done. We fired 8,000 people that were sadists and thieves and crooks. We had one case in Arizona where people got caught stealing $400,000 and they couldn't fire them. They weren't allowed to fire them. They got caught stealing $400,000 and you couldn't fire them. And they got fired very quickly and then some. I will ask Congress to build the full-service VA hospital, Al, right here in New Hampshire. You know, you're the only state in the union. Do you know that? You're the only state in the union that doesn't have a full-service VA hospital, and we have had such an incredible relationship with your state. We are going to build a hospital for our veterans right here in New Hampshire. You just have to give me the location, give me the best location. I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, in-reverse enforcement of the law. And I am also going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement, every police officer and all law enforcement all throughout the United States to protect them. It's called indemnification. I'm going to indemnify them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime. They're told not to touch it, not to stop it. We're going to, and they're afraid to do it. They lose everything. We're going to rebuild our cities into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty better than they've ever been before. We're going to stop crime in our cities. We're going to stop it through strong law enforcement. You can't walk down the street of these cities nowadays without being shot or mugged or beat up or pushed into a subway train. We will take over the horribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., and clean it up, renovate it, rebuild it. It'll be a capital like no other. Right now, you walk down the streets of the Capitol. Last night, 3 people shot. Every day, people are shot. Our capital is a disgrace. I was there for one of these fake trials the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm driving down a major thoroughfare. Let's not even mention it. And there was so much garbage that we're literally driving over cartons and boxes and cans and beer. I say, what a disgrace. The median in between lanes, you know, the median was all falling down, that crappy steel median that they use in this country for some reason. Somebody does a very good job with getting that contract. Because have you ever seen these things? They put them up and the sun bends it. They look like hell after like 2 weeks. What kind of crap is that? But they're all over the place. And they all know what I'm talking about, too. Somebody did a great job of selling. Whoever the hell it is, they're rich as hell. But we're going to straighten out our cities. We're going to straighten out our cities, and we're going to take over the capital of the United States, and we're going to run it in the federal government. It's going to be run properly and safely. Nobody's going to get shot. And if they do, those people are in big trouble that did it. It'll become, again, the most beautiful capital and the safest capital anywhere in the world. No, but can you imagine you're a foreign dignity and you're coming into the United States and you're driving over garbage and you see the medians falling and you see asphalt that has potholes all over the place. What a scene. And I'm telling you, 4 years ago when I was here, I used to go crazy with that. Get that street clean. It wasn't my job. You know, you have a mayor, right? But you have a mayor. And they're supposed to do it, but we're going to take it over. We're going to federalize it, and we're going to run it in the federal government. It's going to be run properly, really properly and safely. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children to destroy their lives. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And it's hard to believe that we have to even say this. It's so ridiculous. I will keep men out of women's sports. Totally done. And as I did for 4 years, perfectly, I will fully uphold our great Second Amendment. We have to. We have no choice. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. Do you know what that means? It's a big deal. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech again in our country. I will secure our elections, and as I said, our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. But until then, Republicans must win. We have to win. You have to get out and vote on Tuesday. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration has done. If you look at what they've done on our border, what they've done to our military, what they've done to everything, look at interest rates. We used to have the lowest interest rates ever. Now we have the highest. Nobody can buy houses. What they've done to this country is incredible, and especially having to do with crime and other such things. The border is one of the great catastrophes, I think, in the world. The border is one of the greatest catastrophes that have ever happened, and embarrassments. And then you go back again to Afghanistan. I defeat ISIS totally. They said you couldn't do it. It would take 4 or 5 years. They did it in 3 months, right? General Raisin Cain, right? Do you ever hear that story? Good general. We have some great generals, I'll tell you. You don't see them on television, though. So if you want to save America, then this Tuesday, January 23rd, you must vote for a man named Trump. Did you ever hear of him? And as I said earlier, the details, and just take it down just in case you want some, but we have to get everybody. nh.donaldjtrump.com. So in conclusion, who the hell wants this to end? I don't want it to end. I had a friend, you know, he wanted to become a politician. He's a very successful guy, one of the most successful people. I don't want to get him embarrassed, and he wants to be a politician. I said, what's the problem? Why don't you do it? Just go ahead and do it. You'd be good. You have a lot of money. You've done that. He said, I have one problem. What? He has stage fright. I said, stage fright. That doesn't sound good. If you have stage fright, I told him, if you have stage fright, this is the wrong business for you. But we feel comfortable together, right? You know? People say, how do you do that? You go up for 2 hours and you talk, and I would say 80% without these crazy things, right? But how do you do that? And I say, there's such love in the room. I really mean this. It's easy, because there's such love in the room. It's like not that hard to do, believe it or not. I don't know. Thank you. It's true. There's so much love. Together we're taking on some of the most menacing forces and vicious opponents our people have ever seen. We've never seen anything like it. But no matter how hateful and corrupt the communists and criminals we are fighting against may be, you must never forget this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. This nation belongs to you. This is your home. This is your heritage. And our American liberty is your God-given right. This is your God-given right. From Concord to Conway, from Plymouth to Portsmouth, and from Meredith to Manchester, you inherit the legacy of red-blooded New Hampshire patriots who live by that immortal motto, live free or die. Have you heard of that before? We stand on the shoulders of American heroes who crossed the ocean, settled a continent, tamed the wilderness, laid down the railroads, raised up the greatest skyscrapers in the world, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and made America the single greatest nation in the history of the world. But now, we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in 50 years, where banks are collapsing and interest rates are skyrocketing. Likewise, we are a nation where energy costs have reached the highest levels in our history, where we are no longer energy independent or energy dominant, as we were just a few short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and others for oil. Please, please, please help us, Joe Biden says. Yet we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country anywhere in the world. We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will be reducing their oil production, while at the same time substantially increasing the price. And we met that threat by announcing that we will no longer be drilling for oil in large areas of Alaska or elsewhere on our land. We are a nation that is consumed by the radical left's Green New Deal, yet everyone knows that the Green New scam is fake and will lead to our destruction. We are a nation whose leaders are demanding all-electric cars, despite the fact that they don't go far. So sad. They also cost too much, and whose batteries are produced in China with materials only available in China, when an unlimited amount of gasoline is available inexpensively in the United States, but not available in China. And now we are a nation that wants to make our revered and very powerful Army tanks the best anywhere in the world, all electric, so that despite the fact that they are also not able to go far, fewer pollutants will be released into the air as we blast through enemy territory in an environmentally friendly way. And they also want to make our jet fighters with a green stamp of energy savings, though losing 15% efficiency, but allowing us to keep our enemy's atmosphere clean of emissions as we viciously and unceremoniously attack them at levels never seen before. Who are these people that would do this to us? Who are these people who would ruin our country? We are a nation that ended oil exploration and production in the U.S. just as the price of oil reached an all-time high. What other country would do such a foolish, foolish thing? So self-destructive it is. Can we be energy independent? And again, can we be even energy dominant? Yes, oh yes, and very quickly, says President Trump. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world, and also abandoning Bagram, one of the biggest military air bases anywhere in the world, and only 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. Think of that. And we are a nation that allowed Russia and Ukraine to fight, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. It would never have happened with me as your president, and for 4 straight years it didn't happen. Likewise, the horrifying attack on Israel would never have happened. They wouldn't have even thought of doing such a thing if President Trump was in the Oval Office. Iran was broke under President Trump. They didn't have the money to fund Hamas or Hezbollah, and all of the other instruments of terror that were funded were going without any funds at all. But those sanctions were lifted by a very corrupt Biden administration, and now Iran is a rich country with $200 billion and another $6 billion for hostages and $10 billion for electricity to Iraq, all compliments of the incompetent Biden administration. And China, with Taiwan, is next. We are a nation that allows radical left terrorists to violently attack our cities, leaving behind massive destruction and death. And nothing happens to the criminals that do these terrible things. There is no punishment, but when people who love our country protest on January 6th in Washington, D.C., they become hostages unfairly imprisoned for long, long periods of time. We are a third world nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never, ever before. We've got a Federal Bureau of Investigation that won't allow bad election-changing facts to be presented to the public, and which offers $1 million to a writer of fiction about Donald J. Trump to lie and say it was fact. Where Hunter Biden's laptop from hell was Russian disinformation and the FBI knew it wasn't. But 51 intelligence agents said it was. And the Department of Justice that refuses to investigate egregious acts of voting irregularities and fraud. And we have a man who is totally corrupt and the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired and in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and possible nuclear war. which would be World War III and far more devastating than any of the previous world wars, because the weaponry that no one has even thought about is so devastating, so far beyond anything ever thought before. We are a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is all you get, and they are indeed the enemy of the people. They refuse to discuss the Biden crime family, but enjoy covering the false indictments of Donald J. Trump, who has done nothing wrong except win an election that wasn't anticipated by them. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant and out of control like never before. And we are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon, and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a military to rival our own. And less than 3 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, North Korea in check. They respected us. They were afraid of us. They weren't going to do a thing against us, and everyone knows it. And now Russia and China are holding summits to carve up the rest of the world. And perhaps most importantly, we are a nation that is no longer admired, respected, or listened to on the world stage. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke. And we are a nation that is hostile to liberty, freedom, faith, and even God. We are a nation whose economy is collapsing into a cesspool of ruin, whose supply chain is broken, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the bottom of every single list. We are a nation that just sold a once great company, United States Steel, to Japan. We are a nation whose stock market continued success is totally contingent on MAGA winning the next election. We are a nation where large packs of sadistic criminals and thieves are allowed to go into stores and openly rob them, beat up and kill their workers and customers, and leave with armloads of goods, but with no retribution, where the authority of our great police has been taken, where their families and pensions have been threatened, and their lives would be destroyed for the mere mention of the words law enforcement. We are a nation where fentanyl and other forms of illegal drugs are easier to get than groceries to feed our beautiful families. We have become a drug-infested, crime-ridden nation, which is incapable of solving even the simplest of problems. We will institute the powerful death penalty for drug dealers, where each dealer is responsible for the death during their lives of over 500 people or more. Mothers will never again be forced to watch their children overdosing and hopelessly dying in the arms of screaming, "What can I do? What can I do? I want my child back." We are a nation whose once revered airports are dirty, crowded mess. You sit and wait for hours and then are notified that the planes won't leave. They have no idea when they will. Where ticket prices have tripled, they don't have the pilots to fly the planes, they don't have the qualified air traffic controllers, and they just don't know what the hell they're doing. We are a nation that screens its citizens viciously at all ports, every single port. But if you're an illegal alien, you're allowed to flow through all gates by the millions and millions and millions. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was hard-working patriots like you who built this country, and it's hard-working patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will drain the swamp. And we will liberate our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all. We will be a liberated country again.
Kazan, you're right. The dramatic music is a bit much. A lot of this stuff is repetitive. He even does the snake story at virtually every one of these. Up north, 4 years of defending himself, 100%, you're right. I'm hoping that he makes better decisions next time he comes in. And I'll go over that when all this is over.
From the White House, and we will take back our country on Election Day 2024. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, New Hampshire. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay. I did not expect that when I went live at 8 o'clock. I didn't think that he was going to be doing his speech in New Hampshire. Thank you all for being here. And again, Kazan, thanks again for showing up. I appreciate the comment. Up north, thank you. And you're right. There is Donald Trump having to defend himself already before he even is president of the United States. He's already having to defend himself. And it's pretty bad. You know, the lawfare that I continue to talk about, the prosecutorial misconduct, the selective prosecution has been absolutely positively out of control. And I'm going to go through quite a few things. It was kind of a slow news cycle. But already we're starting to see how the news media is doing everything they possibly can to try and keep Trump out of off the air, essentially. Some of these things are out of order, but already off the bat, when Trump won Iowa, Rachel Maddow, who's a scumbag, as we all know, didn't want to air Trump's, essentially his victory speech. And there, Rachel Maddow's reasoning for this was misinformation. Let me play this video for you.
I just have to do a little bit of business just for a second. At this point in the evening, the projected winner of the Iowa caucuses has just started giving his victory speech. We will keep an eye on that as it happens. We will let you know if there's any news made in that speech, if there's anything noteworthy, something substantive and important. The reason I'm saying this is, of course, there is a reason that we and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump. It is not out of spite. It is not a decision that we relish.
It's not out of spite. It's not a decision that we relish. Keep that in mind.
Decision that we regularly revisit.
It's a decision that you regularly do.
And honestly, earnestly, it is not an easy decision. But
yes, it is.
There is a cost to us as a news organization of knowingly broadcasting untrue things. And that is a fundamental truth of our business and who we are. And so his remarks tonight will not air here live. We will monitor them and let you know about any news that he makes. Stefan.
This is remarkable that Rachel Maddow, and by the way, this is someone who gets paid $30,000, or was at some point getting paid $30,000 an episode. And she's going to sit there and tell you that Donald Trump, when he makes comments, they have to silence him because he's speaking misinformation. Donald Trump is speaking misinformation. Let me play you a video of Rachel Maddow talking about how the vaccine was going to work for you. And I don't give a shit what ends up happening to my YouTube channel at this point, because I know Dr. YouTube MD has an issue with the fact that there are people that say the vaccine didn't actually well, let's just put it this way. The things that are said in this video by Rachel Maddow did not actually happen. Let me play it for you.
Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the vaccines will get us to the end of this.
Wow. What she just said. In March 29th, 2021, that all of you good for nothings, if you took the thing, and by now I'd be off YouTube and moving to Rumble. And those of you, by the way, let me just stop for a second and just say, move to Rumble. Let's make YouTube MySpace. There are several content creators that are moving, or they're just giving up on YouTube. They've had enough. YouTube is an abusive platform. YouTube takes advantage of their creators. YouTube lies to you. YouTube is out to kill you. YouTube gets paid by criminal organizations to make your life worse. This is an example of that. And if you go against them, they silence you. So, that being said, go to my Rumble channel, rumble.com/Dennis Hendrickson. Because at this point, I'd be moving on if I wasn't playing the Donald Trump New Hampshire deal. I would have moved on by now within the first hour. But I'll go on I'll continue on. And Kazan, thank you again. I just want to say for the comment about how many people that I have following. Unfortunately, during the time that I had my YouTube channel, when Canada was having the trucker protests, I mean, I was getting 1 million in some videos, getting 1 million views on some videos, not all of them, but hundreds of thousands up to 1 million, almost 1 million. And as soon as the algorithm caught up to that, because that, when you think about it, during that time, it wasn't the subject matter was not in the algorithm. It was something that just wasn't programmed in it and hadn't been caught, hadn't been kind of in that dragnet, for the lack of a better word. And so I managed to grow the channel exponentially, rapidly. And then as soon as I started kind of deviating a bit from the Canadian protests, the algorithm caught up to me and punished my channel dramatically. Up north, glad to hear you're a pureblood. Good for you. As am I. As a lot of, no, not a lot, but some of my family, including my wife. And the channel actually made good revenue enough to where I could have quit everything that I was doing and did that full time. But the sad thing about it is that once the algorithm caught up, they put the hammer down on me really, really hard. And I'm not giving up. I mean, there were several times where I said, you know what, I'm not gonna do this anymore, but fuck them. Fuck YouTube. And like I said, YouTube at some point, and I do predict this, it's going to happen. They are going to be MySpace at some point. And there are creators that they don't do political stuff. They do like, tech reviews, things like that, or just, normal stuff. And they're like, we're done with this. We're going to move on to other platforms, or we're just quitting YouTube altogether because we just had enough. And now I'm seeing it, just the dramatic censorship of anyone that is not seemingly part of the crowd. Like, even, I look at Tim Pool, or I look at Candace Owens, or the Daily Wire, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, who I consider, in my opinion, are grifters, who are, why is it that, they don't seem to have a problem on YouTube. They seem to be just pushed to the top. No, they're up there. There's no issues with them. And I've researched a lot of their backgrounds, and Benny Johnson used to write for BuzzFeed. Those of you who understand BuzzFeed and understand the background of who BuzzFeed is, it's a leftist organization, and Benny Johnson used to shit all over those who criticized Obamacare and those who were part of the Tea Party. Candace Owens, who now makes shit tons of money, she used to write a blog that made fun of Donald Trump's penis size, and now all of a sudden is a right-wing pundit. And I'm going off on a tangent right now because, quite honestly, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off that I'm watching something like Rachel Maddow, who is a blatant liar, tell you that the vaccine was going to stop everything, and then tells you when Donald Trump was giving his victory speech after he kicks the living piss out of everyone in Iowa that we're not going to show his victory speech because it's the misinformation. The ones who are, and again, this is projection from people like Rachel Maddow and MSNBC. These are companies who are dying. They are legacy media who no one pays attention to anymore, or less and less people pay attention to. Rachel Maddow does not have a regular show anymore because people don't trust her, even those who were loyal fans of her. Even below this, I'm looking at The View. The people, Joy Behar on The View, who's 83 years old, trying to tell you if you shoot an AR-15, let's say you shoot a deer, you can't eat it because it demolishes the animal. I mean, it's just like these. And she, obviously, somebody like Joy Behar is a Trump hater. But I you know, it's difficult for me not to go off on a tangent. Not for me to go off in a to talk about here's another example of Rachel Maddow and Rolling Stone. And these are the things that people have to remember. These are the things that when we have short-term memories and we don't remember things. Remember ivermectin? Rachel Maddow was one of the people that told you that there were people that were overdosing on ivermectin and they were backing up rural Oklahoma hospitals. They were literally saying that there were people with there were an overwhelming amount of people with gunshot wounds that were trying to go into an Oklahoma hospital, but they couldn't get those wounds taken care of because there were people overdosing on ivermectin. This is also a story that was promoted by Rolling Stone. And a lot of you probably don't know about this. But there are people in my own family and friends of mine that when I mentioned ivermectin, they said, oh, the horse-based medicine or the horse medicine. And you even see this picture down here with the horses on it. And those of you who don't know, ivermectin is a medicine that has been used for many, many years, back in the 70s, for I can't remember now off the top of my head, but it was there hasn't been, I think there was, and all of the studies that have been done on ivermectin has not, that it may have killed one person from an overdose, and there are literally billions of doses that were given from ivermectin when it came to, I think like ringworm or something like that, or malaria, that kind of stuff. And so it's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that ivermectin is a safe medicine, a medicine that has been used since the 70s, antiviral or anti-worm type medicine that's been used, and billions of doses have been given. The inventor had won either like a Nobel Peace Prize or some sort of Nobel Prize. But Rachel Maddow and all of these news outlets, were trying to tell you that people were overdosing on a horse paste medicine, which was completely untrue. I mean, there are even studies that say ivermectin could potentially help in helping with cancer. Not curing cancer, but helping with cancer. In other words, ivermectin is not a dangerous medicine. It is a medicine that's been around a very long time, and it's been lied about. So for somebody like Rachel Maddow to say, we're not going to show Donald Trump, we're not going to show his victory speech because he's a liar or misinformation or whatever it is. There you have it with Rachel Maddow. Who are the people who are actually spreading the actual misinformation? Now, let's go on to MSNBC again with Joy Reid and why Nikki Haley lost the Iowa caucus.
And I think to the point that you made, Steph, I mean, it's the elephant in the room. She's still a brown lady that's got to try to win in a party that is deeply anti-immigrant and which accepts the notion that you can say immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. She's getting, birthered by Donald Trump. And I don't care how much the donor class likes her, which will ramp up a lot, the better she does in New Hampshire. So it's still a challenge. I don't see how she becomes the nominee of that party with Donald Trump still around. I can't picture it happening. Maybe it could happen. Ron DeSantis' only argument for staying in it is he's the white guy, that he can still make the appeal to white evangelicals.
While we have New Hampshire.
And I think to the point that you made, Steph, I mean,
So here we go, making it about race. And let me go back to the comments. Candace Owens, I'm glad you brought that up. Candace Owens was a leftist who, yes, and I mentioned this before. She was a leftist who not only made fun of Donald Trump and Tea Partiers, but one of the things that she said in the articles that she wrote for this now defunct organization is that hopefully Tea Parties, because they are old, will die in their sleep. And that is what Candace Owens did. She wrote that. So yes, Candace Owens is, and I can go off on a tangent on this as well. Candace Owens was a leftist. She wrote articles for, I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up, but she wrote for a leftist organization and against Tea Partiers, and said that hopefully they'll die in their sleep, and made fun of Donald Trump's penis size. And then Benny Johnson, who has millions of followers on social media, also for BuzzFeed. And those of you who don't know BuzzFeed, BuzzFeed is a leftist publication. I think they're either they went bankrupt or going bankrupt. I don't know, but they're, one of those typical leftist organizations that's struggling financially. And he wrote for BuzzFeed. and was actually accused of plagiarism and was fired from BuzzFeed for allegedly plagiarism. So, you know, there are plenty of these people out there. Glenn Beck is another one. Glenn Beck has always been a never Trumper. Now all of a sudden he loves Trump. Trump's the greatest thing that's since sliced bread. He's never liked Trump before. Tulsi Gabbard, Kazan, yes. She was a leftist as well. And there are actually people talking about her being a VP for Donald Trump. No. These are what people have to be careful of. Somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, she is a, you know, she's a dangerous person. I do not trust her. And like I've said before, Vivek Ramaswamy, those of you who are new here, Vivek Ramaswamy did a pump and dump scheme. He bought a patent from GlaxoSmithKline. They gave up on this drug. It was supposed to be an Alzheimer's drug. Glaxo abandoned the drug. He took it, paid $5 million for it, put his mom, who is a doctor, an MD, on the research, put it out there for an IPO, made $30 million on it, and then dumped the fucker because it didn't work. And so here you have a guy who, and this news is out there. This isn't hard to find. And then at the very last moment in Iowa, he's on camera saying, dump Trump, vote for me to save Trump, because they're going to stop at nothing to destroy Trump. So in order to save Trump, vote for me. There are landmines everywhere. Yes, up north. Approved for humans in 1987. It was used to treat infestations, including head lice, scabies, river blindness. I mean, all this stuff when it came to ivermectin. The bottom line was ivermectin was an extreme. The research that I read was a culmination of a number of studies on ivermectin. And the bottom line was you had to take so much ivermectin that you would have died from basically choking on it, that it was that safe. And we were told that ivermectin was a dangerous medicine, and that it was so dangerous that it was causing people to lose their lives going into this Oklahoma hospital. Rachel Maddow was trying to promote that people were overdosing on it, to where people who had gunshot wounds couldn't get care in a random Oklahoma hospital somewhere. Yeah. The Vivek thing, I'm telling you, is crazy that people aren't paying attention to that. Absolutely nuts. Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think, thank God, I think a lot of people realize at the last moment in Iowa who he was. When he said to this voter, vote for me to save Trump. That he just gave it away at that moment, and people came to the realization, you know what? This guy's a dirtbag. And YouTube, what I was saying before, I'm going to be jumping around here a little bit. Shaney Rich, this guy is a very popular YouTuber. He had his YouTube channel shut down, which at some point is going to happen to every right-wing person, including mine. At some point, I'm surprised I'm even monetized. And when it comes to monetization, it's a joke. It's hardly anything because, again, being shadow banned. And so that reminds me, all of you that are on YouTube right now that are watching, please go to rumble.com/Dennis Hendrickson. Make sure that you move from YouTube to Rumble. Now, I'm also on Odyssey, where Kazin's at, my boy Kazin. And you can go to Odyssey, odyssee.com /@ Dennis Hendrickson. So those two platforms is where we need to move to, because at some point, like I said, YouTube is going to be done. And I'm going to shut down. I mean, I'm going to get shut down, or I'm going to shut it down on my own with YouTube, because they're, in my opinion, they're a criminal organization. And just like what Twitter was before Elon Musk took it over, and I'm not so sure that Elon Musk is on the up and up, by the way. But you want to talk about fascism. Oh, look, Joy Reid is trending on X/Twitter right now, meaning everybody's calling her out for being a piece of shit. But at some point, everybody's going to end up moving away from YouTube. Like I said, regular creators, those who are not considered I guess creators that have subject matter is controversial, they're leaving and they're retiring and they're saying they've had enough. So at some point, yes, I mean, you need to get off YouTube entirely and then move on to alternative platforms. And quite honestly, I'm myself, when I look at other creators, I find myself spending more time on Rumble and Odyssey. Oh, that's the other thing, is the amount of money that, yeah, you're right. Up north, the amount of money that YouTube takes is insane. The tip jar, by the way, what I set up at this down at the bottom of the screen, if you want to have messages read aloud and also help support our channel, you can go to streamlabs.com /Dennis or Den Hendrickson, and you can support the channel and actually have your message read out loud as well. And coins drop in that tip jar that's over on the bottom left. So again, you don't have to do it, but thank you, all of you that are being here. But yes, apparently these two YouTube employees, and look at them. Take a look. One has purple hair and one has blue hair. What a big surprise that this guy, Shaney Rich, who wears in his picture, his photo here, wears his truth hat and is a Trump supporter. What a huge surprise that they took his channel down. I'm not sure what the result of that is, but this is what's happening, and it's going to happen more with Trump supporters. It's just going to keep on continuing. Now, this is also going viral. This has been kind of an interesting video of kind of a representation of a Biden supporter complaining about how much everything costs.
Why is everything so damn expensive? 4 years ago, my rent was $1,200 a month at a luxury apartment complex. It is now $2,100, not even including utilities. I went to the grocery store yesterday, right, and got 3 bags of chips, some ground turkey, and some vegetables, and it was $67! What? My car insurance from 4 years ago until now, with no tickets, no wrecks, no nothing on my driver's record, has gone from $130 to $240 per month. 3 years ago, my electric bill was averaging $45. Now it's averaging $125. You go and get a tank of gas once a week, and you're dropping $70. I mean, a guy can't even buy a can of dip for less than $8. $8 for a can of dip? What the fuck is going on?
I'll tell you what the fuck is going on. What's going on is, let's just start with rent. You have competition. You have competition with BlackRock, Blackstone, and other investors that come in and buy up homes. That makes it more difficult for people to find a home, which drives up the cost, which then causes people to go and move into apartment complexes. And then those people go in and buy or rent apartments in these apartment complexes. And when they get rented up, it drives up the cost because there's a huge demand for it. Now, where do you think that demand comes from? Do you think that just comes out of the blue? Or do you think that has something to do with the massive amount of migrants that are coming through at the southern border? Do you think we have this huge amount of people who have been living in America giving birth to a shit ton of people, shitting out kids left and right, and we have all of this huge population boom now? Do you think that's what it is? Or do you think it might have something to do with people coming in from the southern border year after year after year after year, unbridled, needing a place to live? Do you think that the groceries that you're paying for are increasing because... Now, most of these people, which I find funny, now this guy is probably, I don't know about him in particular, but a lot of these people are Biden voters. They're leftists. And if you were to ask them where do groceries come from, they would tell you the grocery store. They don't know what a supply chain is. No clue. Where do you get milk? Oh, a grocery store. Where does the milk come from? I don't know. The grocery store? They have no idea where any of this shit comes from. But they'll vote for Biden because somebody like AOC will tell them, hey, we're going to end up paying for your student debt. So they'll vote for them and then wonder why their rent goes up by double, their electricity costs go up, the price of the food that they buy goes up. Everything that they buy goes up. The food, have you all been noticing in the news over time that cows are dying? Chickens are being culled. Cows are being culled. Have you all noticed that? And have you noticed across the entire planet in Europe in the Netherlands that communists, because of climate change, are trying to get rid of cows, and they're trying to get rid of chickens because they want you to eat the bugs, because chickens and cows and animals cause climate change issues, so they all need to die. Have you noticed that they're lighting chicken plants on fire, that they're blowing shit up? Have you guys noticed that? Have you noticed that and do you think that these are just random, out of nowhere, like just coincidental that food plants are blowing up? Do you think it's coincidental that a bunch of cows just end up dead? They're accelerationists that are doing this. Accelerationists that are trying to bring the end of humanity quicker, because they're all nuts and they all think that by doing that they're helping climate change. And this guy screams on TikTok, of all places, that all of his shit is more expensive, but he has no idea why. He doesn't want to try and find out about it. But he'll go on TikTok and yell and scream about it. Now, I talked about Vivek Ramaswamy and what a dirtbag he is. This guy will sum it up for you. Thank you for this guy. And Citizen Lens, I thanked him for doing this. This guy is great on Twitter. But let me play this video for you, and you can have a pretty good idea of what the type of person Vivek Ramaswamy is.
Vivek Ramaswamy exposed. Trump and Vivek had an exchange. Trump said that Vivek is in disguise. Well, Vivek decided not to retaliate. But here's some details you should know about Vivek. Why does the mainstream media love him even though he has the same talking points as Trump? MSNBC, the New York Times, Axios, Politico, the establishment are all behind him. Why? Vivek turned into a billionaire from his company Roivant, who had never actually taken a pharmaceutical to market. Only a few went to phase 3 clinical trials, but never actually hit the market and turned a profit. Yet 3 of his major investors were BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. What a surprise. Did you also know that he had received funding from the Soros family and he paid to have it wiped from Wikipedia? He was also given a massive donation from Glenn Dubin, one of Epstein's friends who was named in the Epstein documents recently released. And if that's not enough, he was labeled in 2021 as one of the young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. He had no problem with keeping that label and using it for his advantage, but as soon as he decided to become a Republican candidate, decided to sue the World Economic Forum, saying that he didn't know and never allowed them to list him as a young global leader. But get this, not only did he sue the establishment of establishments, he won in 90 days, receiving money and a written apology from the World Economic Forum. It's an election year, 2024. Your vote, you decide. To watch my latest podcast, Fight the Psyops, discussing this specific topic and so much more regarding Iowa 2024, click on the link in my bio right now.
So there you go. And that was one of the things I had forgotten about when I watched this, that Vivek Ramaswamy was part of the young, just like, Tulsi Gabbard was one of them that was listed as one of the young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Yeah, Kazan, feels like I'm running about $35 on average for a bag of groceries. I was talking to a friend of mine today who bought like 3 or 4 items and it cost him, $35. And yes, there was a strange series of fires, the ones in Canada, plane crashes, which we're starting to see now, by the way. Boeing with the door blowing off. There was another Boeing airliner with an engine issue. And there was something over Charlotte. I'm not sure whether it was an airplane or what it was, but there's something going around the internet. I don't know if it was a plane or not, but this whole DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion deal, I've predicted a long time ago, is going to make its way into the airline industry. And that's the worst place that you could possibly have this shit happening. Because people are going to end up dying as a result of it. It's one thing. It's bad enough that you're going to have DEI in your investments, your investment portfolio. That's one thing. That's bad enough. But then you're going to have it in your transportation, especially airline transportation. It's one thing if you have it on ground transportation, because at least if there's a crash, you're not falling out of the sky at 30,000 feet. But it's going to start happening. And if you think that a door blowing off of an airliner is something, get ready for the rest of this stuff. You're going to start seeing more. I mean, this Boeing, I have a feeling you're going to start seeing more Boeing shit happen. Yeah, flying it is shitty. You know, it's like riding the Greyhound bus. But it's going to get worse. I'm telling you right now. This DEI stuff is bad news. And you're already starting to see people like Larry Fink, BlackRock, Blackstone. These guys are starting to back off this stuff. But, you know, it's not enough that they just back off of it. These are the people who pushed it. Larry Fink with BlackRock said, we have to change behaviors. Okay, let's go ahead and change a behavior and fire your ass and make sure that you never work in the financial industry again. And then maybe charge you with crimes. And maybe claw back all the money you've made as a CEO for BlackRock. Maybe we should do that. Larry Fink. Scumbag that you are. That's the type of thing that we need to start doing. And when Trump gets in, those are the things that we need to start doing. Is you have tribunals, you have these court systems put in place, and you look at the, just like we did during the Red Scare. Joseph McCarthy. We need to bring back McCarthyism because communism is what's causing all of this. These are all communists that have infiltrated our government and our corporations. So when you have fascism is Twitter 1.0 working with the federal government, silencing people who dissented on the lockdowns and all of the stuff that was going on with COVID. Communism was involved in all of these companies who got rich off the COVID lockdowns, like Walmart and Amazon and et cetera, et cetera. Crony capitalism. You could say communists hate capitalism, but then they took advantage of crony capitalism in order to get rich and then slammed the door behind them when they all got rich from the lockdowns. And it called Donald Trump and everybody else fascists. When it was these corporations and the federal government working in tandem to silence those people who were saying, wait a minute, something's not right here. Why is it that you're shutting down my small business, but Walmart can stay open and make millions and billions of dollars, and Amazon can do their thing. McDonald's can do their thing, but my restaurant can't stay open? Yeah, Kaz, it's incredible so many companies are openly discriminating against white straight men now. And it's effectively legal because the law isn't enforced. Yeah. A guy like me, and I'm assuming a guy like you, Kazan, is the enemy of the state. You and I we're the problem. Straight white men. We're the bad guys. Here's Jamie Dimon. Listen what this asshole has to say. Finally coming to the realization that the reality is that people actually like Trump. They don't like what's going on with America, and attitudes need to change. But let's be honest with ourselves. Jamie Dimon is the part of the problem. But let's listen to what he has to say.
How do you see the U.S. economy playing itself out over the next 12 months? This is an election year. We've been talking a lot about what just took place in Iowa and trying to understand how the American public is going to feel about the economy may ultimately dictate how the president is decided.
Yes, I agree with that. I think it's a mistake to assume that everything's hunky-dory. And, and when stock markets are up, it's kind of like this little drug we all feel. Like, it's just great, But remember, we've had so much fiscal and monetary stimulation. So I'm a little more on the cautious side, that we are facing a lot of things in 24 or 25. And we mentioned Ukraine, the terrorist activity in Israel, the Red Sea, quantitative tightening, which I still question if we understand exactly how that works. I don't think we do. How QE actually worked, what the effect of negative, zero rates was for all this time. And obviously
he doesn't know how quantitative easing, QE, that's what that is, quantitative easing. He doesn't know how that works. But they've, how many times do you turn on CNBC and they talk about, well, we're going to QE4, QE3, QE 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Quantitative easing is always used, and you don't know how it works, and you're the CEO of JP Morgan? And notice that this asshole has a Ukraine flag pin on his fucking lapel. And by the way, this whole thing is in Davos. This is the World Economic Forum in Davos. It's where these jerk-offs are.
the politics. And, and then the Ukrainian war is affecting oil, gas, food, migration. So you have all these very powerful forces that are going to be affecting us in 24 and 25. So if I was the government, I would be preparing for what I'm going to do about that, assuming things aren't good. And I just also want to point out, I wish the Democrats would think a little more carefully when they talk about MAGA, and if you travel this country, and the country's unbelievable. We took our bus trip this year, and Leslie Picker was on Spokane and Boise and Bozeman. People are growing. They're hungry to grow. They're innovating. It's everywhere. It's not just Silicon Valley. So we've got this great hand. But when people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them, that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. And if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. Mm-hmm. He grew the economy.
He's kind of right about NATO. He's kind of right about immigration. NATO caused the war in Ukraine. And this is, if anything that's going to get me kicked off of YouTube, it's me saying this right now. NATO encroaching on Russia's border and Russia's saying, wait a minute, you know, if you're gonna encroach on my border, at some point I have to retaliate. So I just find it funny that Jamie Dimon is talking about these things, and what's even funnier is he has a Ukraine flag on his lapel.
I mean, quite well.
China virus.
Tax reform worked. Yeah. He was right about some of China. I don't like what he did.
No, I said China virus.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. I don't like, but he wasn't wrong about.
And the guy on the left, by the way, with at least on CNBC, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Kazan or somebody in the chat might remember his name, but he is a right-leaning guy, and says some of the right things.
Voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. Now, if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. Mm-hmm. He grew the economy quite well.
China virus.
Tax reform worked. Yeah. He was right about some of China.
I don't like
he
did do tax reform.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. I don't like, but he wasn't wrong.
And what did he say about Mexico? Joe Kernan is the guy at CNBC. What did he say about Mexico? This is this long-going thing that when he walked down the escalator, that everybody from Mexico are bad people. That's not what he said. If you watch the fucking video, he said some of them are. And let's extrapolate on everything and all the people that are coming in through the southern border now. Chinese nationals, Haitian nationals, people that aren't from Latin America are coming in. And how long is somebody like Jamie Dimon? Jamie Dimon has been the CEO of J.P. Morgan for God only knows how long. You want to talk about fascism? In 2008, when they were bailed out by the federal government, you want to talk about fascism? There's fascism for you. If you go, Kazan, if you type in www.DennisHendrickson.com. Where are you? What link are you clicking on? So if I need to fix that. And if you're talking about the read aloud message, the Streamlabs. Yeah, it's streamlabs.com/Den Hendrickson, like it is on the bottom. If that's not working, let me know. No, it works. That's not the question. Just wondering if you're actually sending out emails. Oh yeah. Yeah. If you go to the DennisHendrickson.com and then sign up for that, then anything that I post there will send out as an email to everybody. Yes. And there, you can subscribe as well. So the things that I don't post on YouTube or Rumble, like podcasts, things like that, you can be part of that community and get stuff that I normally don't put out for free. But thanks for asking, Kazan. I appreciate that.
About some of these critical issues, and that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up here, you should always ask the why. Not like it's a binary thing. You're supporting Trump, you're not supporting Trump. Why are you supporting Trump?
It's hard to hate 75 million of your fellow Americans. And
I agree.
It's done crazy.
And, the Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really, Like, can we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect and listen to them a little bit? And I do think the economy will affect. And I think this negative talk about MAGA is going to hurt Biden's election campaign.
Well, of course it is. But what I don't understand and what I find strange is Jamie Dimon is mentioning this kind of stuff now. And he's been the CEO of JP Morgan for a very long time. And all of a sudden this is an issue. But what he's saying is right. And we'll see what happens. But lots going on in Davos. I think tonight or today was the last day. And there's this whole thing that we're talking about with Disease X. I don't know if you've heard about this, but here we go again with this shitbag, Bill Gates. And how wonderful, how Dr. YouTube MD was telling you how wonderful the vaccines were. Bill Gates is back. And now, by the way, let me just preface this by saying that Bill Gates couldn't make a operating system with Microsoft that was worth a shit. And the only reason he even had Microsoft in the first place is because he stole the software and his mom introduced him to IBM, which got the whole thing started. So he's no different than Mark Zuckerberg, who stole the Facebook idea from the Winklevoss twins at Harvard when they were at Harvard and turned that thing into $1 billion business and got sued by them, by the way, and lost. But he still ended up going on and becoming the asshole that he is. This is similar with Bill Gates when it came to Microsoft and what a shitty software system, operating system he created. But now all of a sudden he's this wonderful humanitarian that created all these wonderful vaccines, tested them all in Africa, killed a bunch of people in Africa. And all this stuff, by the way, is in RFK Jr.'s book about what Bill Gates did in Africa and all of the money he spent on buying out media outlets, things like that. But let's see what he has to say in Davos.
We make sure that for all these vaccines, that there's enough capacity, that there's competition, so the prices keep going down. And we will have new vaccines. We'll have a TB vaccine, malaria vaccine, HIV vaccine, and even the things like COVID vaccines. We need to make them have longer duration, more coverage, and we're going to change, instead of using a needle, to use a little patch. So the pandemic really highlighted that we've been underinvested in those innovations, and our partners in India are part of how we're going to get these breakthrough products done.
So it's not about whether or not they work. It's about how do we put them in, like, insects? How do we put them in little patches? How do we make it easier to make people take these vaccines that apparently aren't working? And yeah, Kazan, he spent quite a bit of time on Epstein's Island. And what I found interesting as well, and you may have seen it, was the interview he had with PBS and how he said, well, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, so you have to be careful. You have to be careful. What does that mean? The tribal leader up north. Did you see the tribal leader curse the WF on? Is that? Oh, hold on for a second. Are you talking about this? the opening ceremony at the WEF.
Na Anuri, no Yuyua, na Wahon Shinava Punk and Tushina Shavawaki, Shinama Kikirani, Tsai Shavakirani, Tsai Makikirani. Awama Wanana, Awama Wanana, no Mawana, why should I?
Yes. Thank you up north for bringing that up, and nice transition. And Alex, this guy Alex, Elizabeth Warren addresses the World Economic Forum in Davos. I had called it the opening ceremony. And yeah, was she actually, do you know what she was saying? Speaking of that, did you see the tribal leader curse the WF on stage, translate, tell them everything except? That would be great. If you have any information on the fact that she was actually cursing him out, that would be amazing. But yeah, I mean, this whole, at some point, there has to be an end to this World Economic Forum thing. And I'm, like with Bill Gates is, in my opinion, is an enemy of humanity. His idea is, let me create a vaccine to cure everything, as opposed to making people overall healthy. It's a game to him on how much money he can possibly make. And he doesn't have enough money in his mind. It's a game. How much more money can I possibly make? And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to push these vaccines. That's his hill. That's his hill that he's going to die on. Here's someone who is speaking at the World Economic Forum, who believes that farming and fishing is ecocide. And we're seeing this across the planet. We're seeing that the Netherlands, because of greenhouse gases, we have to shut down farming. We have to bring farming to a halt. We have to cull cows, things like that. In other words, we have to starve our population in order to stop climate change. Do you understand what these people are trying to do to us? They're trying to kill us. They're trying to create viruses. They're trying to stop farming in order for us to not be able to eat. And then say, okay, in order for you to get sustenance, in order for you to get protein, you need to eat bugs. People are making these jokes like, oh, you need to eat the bugs. That's what Klaus Schwab is saying. Eating bugs is bad for you. It can potentially kill you. It's why you have that, when you see a cockroach or you see a cricket or you're like, I'm not going to eat that because my body is telling me that that's probably bad for me. Because of the chitin, because of the shell on an insect is bad for humans. It's not something that we should eat. But these crazed lunatics think that in order for us to save the planet, and you know what? They're not crazed. They're actually smart. What they're trying to do is they're trying to cull the population. So what they're saying is, because these are the people they're still going to eat steak. They're still going to have their own farms and eat filet mignon. They're still going to fly their private jets when they go to Davos. It's people like you that they're going to say, hey, you have to eat shit.
I mean, ecocide as a word is becoming better known around the world, and the concept is generally mass damage and destruction of nature. But legally speaking, what our organisation and other collaborators aim to do is to have this recognised legally as a serious crime. Because one of the issues that sort of pervades all of this discussion is that we have a kind of cultural, very ingrained habit of not taking damage to nature as seriously as we take damage to people and property. And that, I mean, you know, if you're campaigning for human rights, at least you know mass murder, torture, all of these things are serious crimes. But there's no equivalent in the environmental space. And so, you know, unlike an international crime like genocide that involves a specific intent, with ecocide, what we see is actually what people are trying to do, what businesses are trying to do, is make money, is farm, is fish, is do all of these things that are, producing energy and so on, as well. But what's missing is the awareness and the conscience around the side effects, around the collateral damage that happens with that.
So if you want to eat food and get protein, you're committing ecocide, and you're not allowed to do that. I mean, do you understand how fucking crazy this stuff is? That people at the WEF, the World Economic Forum, is saying that if you want to eat food, it's ecocide. They are trying to legitimately starve you. I mean, what are you supposed to eat? And then when you start thinking about it, okay, that's why they're trying to push crickets and insect protein. At what point do you finally say, I've had enough, I'm not listening to you anymore, go to hell, or I'm going to arrest you and I'm going to charge you with genocide? These are actual Nazis. And when you listen to Klaus Schwab actually speak, it's one of those things where it actually angers you when you listen to his accent and listen to him. But not a lot of people understand who Klaus Schwab is. They don't understand most people, they have no idea what the World Economic Forum is. They don't know who Klaus Schwab is. They don't know who leads up the WHO, Tedros. That Tedros screwed up everything when it came to COVID, and he's still leading up the WHO. And yeah, these are the same people, Gazin, that they lecture us about flying when they take private jets to Davos. Here's one of those assholes, John Kerry.
The marketplace is going to support this transition, and I think it's irrevocable now. There's no question about whether or not the world is going to get to a low-carbon, no-carbon economy. We're going to get there. The only question is, are we going to get there in time to not be ravaged by the worst consequences of the climate crisis? The marketplace is...
John Kerry flies around on a private jet. John Kerry, his wife, is heir to the Heinz ketchup fortune. So when he flies around on his private jet, he likes to say that it's not my jet. Well, whose is it? Well, It's my wife's, who's heir to the Heinz ketchup fortune. John Kerry's a rich bitch. And he's going to sit there and tell you, he's going to lecture you on flying. He's going to lecture you on taking planes and traveling and shit like that. He's going to lecture you on it. And here he is in Davos. It's funny. It's hilarious. This guy. At least there was actually someone at the meeting. There were a couple of people, by the way. And this is the new president of Argentina, I think it is. It's getting late, so I think I got that wrong, but the guy ripping around with the chainsaw, trying to tell people what... This is 23 minutes. I don't know if this is... I'll play the first part of it.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Today, I'm here to tell you that the Western world is in danger. And it is endangered because those who are supposed to have to defend the values
Javier Milei of Argentina
of the West are co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism and thereby to poverty. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-meaning individuals willing to help others, and others motivated by the wish to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world. Rather, they are the root cause. Do believe me, no one better placed than us, Argentines, to testify to these 2 points. When we adopted the model of freedom back in 1860, in 35 years we became a leading world power. And when we embraced collectivism over the course of the last 100 years, we saw how our citizens started to become systematically impoverished, and we dropped to spot number 140 globally. But before having the discussion, it would first be important for us to take a look at the data that demonstrate why free enterprise capitalism is not just the only possible system to end world poverty, but also that it's the only morally desirable system to achieve this. If we look at the history of economic progress, we can see how between the year 0 and the year 1800 approximately, world per capita GDP practically remained constant throughout the whole reference period. If you look at a graph of the evolution of economic growth throughout the history of humanity, you would...
Okay, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. But essentially what he essentially said was, globalism is bullshit, and free enterprise is the savior to everything. And this guy is an economist, or was an economist. And everyone at the I'm actually shocked at the fact that he was even invited to the World Economic Forum. I'm guessing that they thought that he would say something different. I wish we would do something with his hair because it's whack. He looks like a 1970s porn star. But he is an economist. He knows this stuff. And so there's another video in here that I'm going to get to that essentially spits in the face of the WEF. And it's seemingly a kind of pattern now that's starting to happen, to where not only all of us that are talking about it and saying that this doesn't work, globalism doesn't work, it's a bad thing, but then people who are actually attending the World Economic Forum are actually saying the same thing. But here's Yuval Harari, who is basically the right-hand man of Klaus Schwab. This guy is a real creep. Now listen to what he has to say here.
Are you concerned that Trump might be elected again shortly?
I think it's very likely. And if it happens, it is likely to be the kind of like the death blow to what remains of the global order. And he says it openly. Now, again, it should be clear that many of these politicians, they present a false dichotomy, a false binary vision of the world, as if you have to choose between patriotism and globalism, between being loyal to your nation and being loyal to some kind of, I don't know, global government or whatever.
Are you concerned that Trump might be elected again?
So for you to be loyal to your country is a bad thing, that you need to be loyal to globalism. And how's that working out for all of us, globalism? It's not working out so well, is it? Yuval Harari also believes that because of technology and because of automation, that we have a bunch of useless idiots that essentially should be eliminated. Instead of saying, okay, we have a change now. Technology is growing exponentially quickly. We need to figure out how we take those people who would be left behind. Let's somehow figure out a way to catch them up. How do we educate them into the new economy? How do we help them out? Instead, somebody like him says abandon them. He wants to leave them behind. He calls them useless eaters. He calls them useless people. Instead of going back and saying we can use that same technology to maybe help those people out, educate them, make them part of the new technological society or whatever it may be, he has no problem just giving them drugs and alcohol and video games to make them dumb and useless. That's Yuval Harari. That's his strategy on dealing with that. Now here is Avi Yemeni from Rebel News. This guy is not black. He's black stone, not black rock, but black stone. Here's a guy who he himself is kind of doing the same kind of thing that Jamie Dimon was saying about the fact that coming to the reality that Donald Trump is going to be president. So I love these guys from Rebel News. I had a little tiff between myself and the head of Rebel News back in the day, but I still do have respect for these guys, and they do a really great job. And the fact that they actually went went there and did this hard journalism. Good for them. And let me play this video for you.
Can I ask you who you think is a bigger threat to democracy, Blackstone or BlackRock?
Sorry, we have to keep moving. Thank you.
Why don't you want to answer? Because you guys don't own our media. Why do you have so much power? Why do you deserve so much power? Why do you think you need so much power? You're safe now. Can I ask you who you think is a big...
So these guys, Schwartzman with Blackstone, here's a good example of why this particular individual is an asshole. They defaulted on a New York City office. Now, here, I think any of you that are watching me are smart enough to understand this. That if after COVID, the people were working remotely, it was probably a bad idea to start investing in office complexes. But Blackstone, they decided they were going to do that. But those of you who are watching me probably would have said, you know what, with all this remote work and everything, it's probably not a good idea that we do this. But Blackstone defaulted on a New York City office loan for sale at a 50% discount. So they bought an office building in Manhattan and they defaulted on the loan after purchasing that building. That just goes to show you what Blackstone's all about. And that's the guy running it, Steven Schwartzman. There is a video in here of him talking with CNBC. See if I can find it. Oh, Chip Roy. Anybody watch Chip Roy and his outburst today? Oh, here we go. This is the guy who runs, he's the CEO of Blackstone. Blackstone, not BlackRock.
We've now got $2 trillion deficits with no end in sight. We've got our debt to GDP going up. We've got open borders with 8 million people coming over. You know, I don't know that the country, frankly, is prepared for 4 more years of that, because those things all poll very negatively. So I can't really project, you know, what would happen. We've now got $2 trillion.
A lot of these guys, Jamie Dimon, and now Steven Schwartzman, are talking about, yeah, we need to, I mean, they're not outright saying that Trump's the guy, but it's like all of a sudden they're talking about reality. And it's like, well, where are you guys coming from now? Like, like all of a sudden, you're on the side of MAGA? Really? Where was this shit before? Makes no sense to me. So I don't know this whole thing with Davos. I don't know whether these guys are saying they're placating all of us. And I think that there's something sinister about all of this. I mean, look at this guy. This guy runs Blackstone. I didn't see anything from BlackRock. Oh, here we go. I love the comments because you can learn a lot from some of the people in the comments. Clearly, Steven Schwartzman and Jamie Dimon coordinated their remarks. No doubt that they're running scared about stability and safety of the country, and both are only doing it not because they're hearing complaints and fear amongst family and friends. That's an interesting comment. That's a very interesting comment right there. And they essentially just kind of articulated what I was thinking. Why is all of a sudden Steven Schwartzman and Jamie Dimon saying essentially the same thing when they're interviewed by CNBC? Are they, and here's what's scary about these guys. These guys are running essentially trillion-dollar companies, which there shouldn't be no such thing. There should not be trillion-dollar companies. There should not be balance sheets of $1 trillion. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. You should not have trillion-dollar balance sheet companies. Those should not exist. Even in today's world, there should not be trillion-dollar balance sheets companies. But then you have, okay, they exist. But you have people like Jamie Dimon. Like all of a sudden you've come to the realization that people want Donald Trump as president. You've all of a sudden that like you figured that shit out now. And somebody like Steven Schwartzman. The U.S. is not prepared for 4 more years of Biden's $2 trillion deficit and 8 million illegal immigrants invading America. Like you guys didn't figure that shit out before. All of a sudden that's new to you. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. Oh, God. Oh man. Hold on. What the fuck?
All right, gang. It's literally your boy, Ben Shapiro, bro. And this rap is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Watch Daily Wire, not CNN. Sponsored by ExpressVPN. Literally, my first rap is better than Megan Thee Stallion. Shout out to Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, homie, what it do? Candace Owens getting on my nerves, but she's family, she's a part of the crew. Destroying these woke college kids, not on Shabbat, shout out to the Jews. Chris Christie is the white Lizzo, there's never been a debate that I lose. Y'all are just a bunch of snowflakes, I got birch gold, not gold shades. Shout out to Andrew Callaghan, all gas, no brakes. Better rapper than Cardi B, Lizzo needs to do cardio. Facts don't care about your feelings, won't apologize, I'm not sorry, bro. Voted Obama and Hillary, I used to be a Democrat. I am never going back, God forbid, nah, never that. We don't listen to rap music, I won't allow it in this kosher home. I don't care how you feel inside, it doesn't go and change your chromosomes. People with drop duration syndrome even stop watching Home Alone. Systemic racism doesn't exist, start with your broken home. Did I ever mention to you that my wife's a doctor? T-Bay kosher, I don't ever eat no pork or lobster. Got so many apps, don't make me go pull out the chopper. I respect the first responders, shout out to the coppers. Did I ever mention to you that my wife's a doctor? T-Bay kosher, I don't ever eat no pork or lobster. Got so many apps, don't make me go pull out the chopper. I respect the first responders, shout out to the coppers. I've been blessed for years where you let this tear, say my name 3 times then I'll appear. How can I be homophobic? I would never go fear a queer. Shout to the fans who rock with me. Leah Thomas has it bigger than me. You communists never stopping me. Learned violin when I was only 3. Graduated college at 20. Top of my class at Harvard Law. I don't need to go and drop drawers. When I speak, I drop jaws. I always take the high road. Make sure that you buy gold. All I do is tell people facts. Don't know why it goes viral. I have 4 kids. You can call me daddy. You woke Karens are so bratty. If you want smoke, send the addy. Pretend you're a woman, but you're a laddie. It's cool to be a feminist and environmentalist. Leftists accuse you of what they do. They're projectionists. Criticism ain't affecting me. Kids getting double mastectomies and cutting off their genitals, confirming their gender identity. How is that sensibly medically? That should be a felony. The left has gotten too recklessly. 6 figures when I speak, check the fee. Did I ever mention to you that my wife's a doctor? T-Bay kosher, I don't ever eat no pork or lobster. Got so many apps, don't make me go pull out the chopper. I respect the first responders, shout out to the coppers. Did I ever mention to you that my wife's a doctor? T-Bay kosher, I don't ever eat no pork or lobster. Got so many apps, don't make me go pull out the chopper. I respect the first responders, shout out to the coppers. To the coppers.
Okay, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy that somebody actually did AI with Ben Shapiro like that. That's nuts. All right, there are a few more things I want to go over, and then I'm going to call it a night. Going a little bit over, but Alec Baldwin finally got charged with involuntary manslaughter. That's a good thing. And Denver hospital at a critical point after illegal immigrants overwhelm health system. I do want to talk about this story. This is a big deal. This is from the Post Millennial. And again, this is not discussed by Jamie Dimon or the CEO of Blackstone. These are things that you and I have to deal with. Our money is at stake. Our taxpayer dollars are at stake when it comes to this. Denver's public health care system, Denver Health, is in critical condition as it continues to deal with a rise in patients not being able to pay their medical bills. While Denver residents and those on Medicaid account for the vast majority of those receiving uncompensated care, Officials have made it clear that the unprecedented rise in illegal immigrants arriving in the city has been the straw that broke the camel's back. According to the Denver Gazette, in 2023, $135 million in uncompensated care was reported, a $10 million increase over the year before. As the Daily Mail points out, $100 million of that bill was run up by residents of the city, and the total includes visits that will be covered by Medicaid. Nonetheless, Denver Health CEO Dr. Donna Lynn lamented that the system was at a critical point, and because our costs exceed our revenues, we are turning down patients every day, particularly in the area of mental health and substance abuse. While I have tremendous compassion for what's going on, it's heartbreaking, she added. It's going to break Denver health. Chief Government and Community Affairs Officer Dr. Stephen Federico said that the jump was due to the growing number of illegal immigrants utilizing the system, noting that an estimated 8,000 had made 20,000 visits to the hospital. Associate Director of Pediatrics Emergency Medicine Dr. Taylor McCormick explained that by and large, these patients don't have medical insurance, and thus Denver Health is eating the cost for many of these visits. There's going to be a point where the numbers make this very, very hard, McCormick said. We're already past the breaking point to a certain extent. Denver has taken in over 37,000 illegal immigrants since this crisis began. Many of them who are taken care of at the taxpayer's expense. So, let's talk about this. It's going to be the last thing I talk about tonight, and I'll cut it out. So, those of you who are compassionate about illegal immigrants, let me just say this. You don't understand what's happening and the purpose of all of this. Here's a hospital in Denver in the middle of the country that's telling you we are in trouble. Our system is breaking down because we can no longer afford to handle the amount of illegal immigrants that are coming in. And as a result of that, at some point, the health system's going to crater. And if you are someone who requires emergency care or life-saving type care, like a cancer patient, I have firsthand knowledge of that. What's going to end up happening? Because a lot of these hospitals, by law, have to take care of these people that are coming in. People are not thinking about these things. The healthcare system is going to collapse due to the amount of illegal immigrants that are coming in. They are not paying for their health care. But as a taxpayer, you have to pay for it. And then if you need life-saving health care, you are going to die. This isn't a joke. This is serious shit. And this is where communists who are encouraging, and by the way, NGOs like the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, they are allowing this shit to happen. And if you have family members who are dealing with cancer, If you have family members that have serious health issues, I'm telling you right now, they are not going to make it through this. Your family members who have health issues are not going to make it through this, because illegal immigrants are going to overwhelm and bankrupt the healthcare system. And those of you who need life-saving care, who have lived here and have been paying your health insurance and your medical bills and everything else, you will take it won't matter. Nobody will care about you, and your family members will die. It'll be over for them. This is a big, big deal. And if you're not paying attention to this, I don't know what else there is to pay attention to. And I have firsthand knowledge of this. This is something that scares the living shit out of me. This is one of the most important things, in my opinion, that people should be paying attention to. And they're not. I mean, think of when you have an overwhelming amount of people coming into the country, what do you think is going to happen? You have the healthcare system is the scariest thing to me. Terrorism is up there as well. You're going to have people that are coming in here that are going to, they're going to kill people there. But when you overwhelm a healthcare system, and I don't think people really understand this, especially with as many people who are getting cancer, as many people who are having health issues, heart issues, things that are caused by the vaccine, things that are caused by COVID. A lot of people are going to die because of illegal immigrants. They're going to die because of it. So, I'll leave it at that. But these are the things that, you can't have just a bunch of people coming into the country and thinking, oh, we can handle it all. No big deal. This right here, that's happening in Denver. They are being overwhelmed. And you're not even talking about Chicago and New York City. Think about these big cities that, God forbid, you have someone who has a real serious problem, long-term health issue. Our government, you think the Biden administration gives a shit? They don't care. It's about remaining in power. How do I stay in power? If you die because a bunch of people who come into this country might vote for me, I don't care. That's that's Joe Biden. Donald Trump wanted to actually change the healthcare system and make it better, and couldn't. But Joe Biden and Obama, they didn't want, hey, we got Obamacare, tens of thousands of dollars a year that you have to pay for. And then let's go ahead and overwhelm the healthcare system with a bunch of people coming in from other countries. And by the way, not only do you have to pay for your own premiums and your own deductibles, but now your tax dollars are going to go up. The amount that you have to pay in taxes is going to go up, so you can cover healthcare for illegal immigrants that are coming in. It's a great system. It's an unbelievably great system. So I'm going to leave you with that. I will be back again tomorrow night at 8 and continue with the rest of the stories. And again, I wanted to stop at 10, but because of Trump was speaking, it went on a little bit longer. But thank you, Kazan. Thank you, Up North, for being here, and we will see you all tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Appreciate it.